Mining ditches were used to carry vast amounts of water needed for hydraulic mining. This one is over 10 miles long. By 1849, when the California gold rush was in full force, Coloma had several stores, hotels, businesses, and a number of ever-popular saloons and gambling houses. Inside the Gold Museum, there was lots of interesting photos, drawings, artifacts, and even a minecart from the gold rush in 1849. As well as a replica of a mine, which is pretty cool. Chinese stories. Between 1850 and 1883, Coloma was home to a sizable Chinese community. Welcome to Wahop Store and Bank. Chinese workers lured to California by a promised gold mountain from which they could literally carve out their fortune, fleeing years of war and poverty. Chinese miners at Coloma, thought to have been numbered about 50, were so efficient at finding gold that other miners complained of a Chinese invasion. Wahop Store and Bank. Known as the Wahop Store and Bank, this stone building, as well as the one adjoining it, was built in 1858 to 59 by Jonas Wilder. Leased to Wahop in 1860, the building served the Chinese community of Coloma for many years. It served as a store, bank, and as a social center, where news from home and other Chinese communities around the state could be shared. Chinese signs. Signs hung beside the doors of the Wahop and Manly stores, advertising the goods and services these merchants provided the Chinese miners, the other early Coloma residents. The blacksmith shop was built by Perry Monroe in about 1900. I was lucky enough to get the chance to interview its current blacksmith.
This shop was opened in 1903 by a black blacksmith named Perry Monroe. His grandmother came out here in the 1850, before California was a state even. It became a state in 1850. So she had been a slave in the East, but California's always been free, so she was free. After the Civil War, she sent back for her grandson, and when he came out, his son, or her grandson, was the one who opened this shop. So it's not as old as the Gold Rush days, but still over 100 years old. The way a blacksmith does his work is he has to bend all this iron into various shapes and make things with iron. To be honest, that's a blacksmith's job. You know how a blacksmith gets his name? The metal we work with is what color?
Black.
Black. That's black iron. So they used to call it more the black metal, and then they dropped the black. Now it's just mostly iron. A smith is anybody who earns their living with a hammer. So since we earn our living with a hammer on black iron, we were a blacksmith. So if we worked with a hammer on gold, what would we have been?
Smith?
Goldsmith.
Goldsmith, silversmith, tinsmith, coppersmith, all kinds of smiths in the world. That's why the name Smith is so common. If you're not named Smith, you're sure you know somebody who is named Smith. So the way a blacksmith gets his metal in any of these shapes, he has to get it red hot. If you've ever left a piece of plastic out in the sun on a hot summer's day, you'll see it gets soft and you can bend it without breaking it. Well, iron is the same way, except instead of leaving it out in 100-degree sun, we put it in the forge over here, which has a coal fire. And then when you blow it up, it starts to rear up and get hot, and it gets red hot. When the iron gets red hot, you can bend it, pound it, twist it, any shape you want, and then when it gets cold again, it stays in that shape. So that's the blacksmith's job, is to pound and twist and bend iron into whatever shape you might want it, and then sell it to you. So when the pioneers first came out here in the gold rush days, there was no iron. This was a Stone Age culture with the Indians that were here. So if you wanted iron for tools or weapons, wagon parts, even such a simple thing as a nail, you had to have a blacksmith make it for you. So the way he made it was, like I say, was he'd get it red hot, put it in whatever shape you wanted, and then sell it to you. And you're in the 4th grade, so I'll pick on you for California history. Does California have any iron? Not very much. Not in commercial quantities. Sometimes when you see a red hill or something, it's iron oxidizing in the soil, but most of it had to come from the East Coast. And it came like this. So they would put that in the holds of ships as ballast. Does everybody know what ballast is?
I wish I had more time to show you all the wonderful sights of Coloma, but here are a few more snapshots. First, the county jail. Next, Coloma Grace, delivery stable. Now, the California stamp. Next, Coloma's first post office. It opened in 1849 and is still running today. Look how small it is! As my final segment of this video, and as expected, the Marshall Gold Discovery Park has lots of monuments and artifacts on James Marshall, including his cabin. Marshall joined a wagon train bound for Oregon in 1844, and in June 1845, he headed for California with a small party of settlers. He arrived at Sutter's Fort in July and was immediately hired as a wheelwright and carpenter. Craftsmen with his experience were scarce in California. Now to St. John's Catholic Church that was established in 1856 and is still used today for weddings. This church was built in 1855. This is the oldest Episcopal church in the state. It was later purchased and used by the Methodists. James Marshall's funeral service was held here in 1885. Thank you for watching my video and learning all about my hidden gem. Come on.